Spring is a few days away. It is time to get these knobby Mitas fatty 21-inch tires mounted up and get rid of these more street bias tires. So I'll go through what it's like to mount it, and then my experience with it, at least starting off. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to my channel. If you follow Kyle Bradshaw at all at Mini Bikes, you probably already know about this tire. This is the Mitas 9121, meaning that the carcass height is equal to the width, which that's not common with any tire. So what that's going to do is it's going to give me a little bit more protection for the wheel, because the overall carcass height is more, 10% more, still a little bit, but it is a little bit fatter tire. So the other thing, I have to say thanks to Kyle. I messed up on my order, but he got me fixed up. He made sure I got the version I wanted. This is the Dakar version, so it is a little bit stiffer carcass. I'm not sure how easy it's going to be to mount up. I'm going to use the Rabiconda. It does awesome on mounting tires. Now you'll notice I've got some wood blocks inside the bead. When I got the tire in, the bead was nearly closed up, and I knew that was going to be really, really difficult to get this thing mounted if the bead just sat together, because hitting it with air pressure, it was just not going to expand. So I took some tire. These came out of a Mitas tire that I have to try to keep this carcass nice and wide. I probably should have done the whole thing, but I threw some 2x4s in here to try to get it opened up again. I don't know if that's going to be enough. We're going to find out and see how it goes. I have not ridden a Mitas knobby tire, so I'll be interested to see how it does both on-road and off-road, because I'm going to do a lot of road riding. I expect this tire to be incredibly loud. There's big gaps here, and I'm not sure what to think about these knobs, if I'm going to feel them bending back and forth as I'm cornering. I think maybe because of the tread design, if you can see that the stagger between them, it might transition from one lug to the other pretty well without getting that lean on it. So I'm going to get this wheel pulled off, and then I'll get it mounted up, and we'll talk about that. And then really the big thing is to get out and test it. Hopefully the weather clears up. We've had snow over the past few days, which may have made some hero dirt that I would really like to go take advantage of. All right, I'm ready to put this tire on. It's non-directional, so I think what I can do is run it 3,000 or 4,000 miles in one direction, depending on how the wear is, and if it starts cupping, maybe flip it over. Just something to think about. Price isn't too high, so if I get 5,000 miles out of it without flipping it, I'll be perfectly happy. So I'm gonna get this mounted, and we'll see how well the bead seats. This is a bugger. I knew this was gonna be hard. Oh my goodness, that was a bugger. This was really struggling because it's wanting to pop out. The Dakar, I probably shouldn't have got the Dakar. I think it's overkill. All right, tire is mounted. You'll see that I really had trouble getting the last part of the bead put over. And I really, the one thing about the Rabiconda that I'm not really keen on is that you have to strap around your spokes to hold it in place. And at some point, you're really putting a lot of pressure, or at least I was trying to get this tire, to get it to come over. And even putting the drop center tools, those little clips to try to keep the tire in the drop center opposite of your last bead, that this carcass is incredibly hard. So I have to say, Motion Pro for the win. I really like how narrow these are, how thin they are without having a big hook on them like some tire levers do. I can slide these up under the tire, that last bit, and then flip it up, which you'll see. And I always carry these. These are awesome. If you don't know Motion Pro and you ride a motorcycle, you really should. All right, so tires on. As far as getting it mounted, getting air pressure in it, I had to monkey with it just a little. I've spent up to an hour on a single tire before when it just didn't want to seat on the wheel. I had to push the beads down into the center channel all the way around, and once I did that, it got a seal and then was able to push it out. So I tried one time, did some adjustments on the tire, and then was able to get it. So that went fine. Now, I use ride-on fluid in my tires to balance them because it works perfectly, and I don't have a balancing stand. And I put it in there. I know it's supposed to have some puncture ability to fill punctures, but I wouldn't really depend on that. But as far as balancing goes, it's worth it to me. It's kind of expensive. I think it's like $16 a bottle now, where if you have a balancing stand and you have weights, you're not going to spend nearly that over the life. But the ride-on, because it's a fluid, it's dynamic, and will keep the tire balanced no matter what happens. So that's what I do. Anyway, I'm going to get this mounted, and then I'll show you how I scrub in my front tire. Kind of fun. And then after that, we'll get out on a test ride, and I've got some suspension testing to do as well. I can tell this is a taller tire. The bike is at the same height that it was when I pulled the other tire and rolled it out underneath this fender. So with the knobs and the thicker height, I can't get it back in at the same height that it was with my other tire. So I'm going to have to crank up my stand. Not a big deal, but I thought it'd be worth pointing out that this is with the height of the knobs and the height of the tire itself, a difference. All right, real quick, I have trying to work on getting these tires scrubbed in. You'll see what I like to do in gravel is just grind that steering handlebars back and forth to try to rub off some of the, I don't know, whatever they use in the cast in order to get the rubber out, but it has that little bit of a sheen. So I worked on doing that, and then I'm running some dirt roads here. A couple of notes that I don't know why I didn't think about this, but because it's a taller profile carcass, if you have a high fender, you're going to lose some clearance there, and I have lost more than I was expecting. So if I get into heavy mud, if this isn't clearing very well, or if it's really caking on, it's going to clog up under my fender pretty quickly. Now, if that starts happening, I can always take the fender off or do something like that. But that is something to keep in mind. But if you have a high fender, shouldn't have a problem. I have hit some hard packed dirt roads, some deeper gravel dirt roads, and then just out on the forest road. Some of it's loose, some of it's rocky. Again, initial impression, first ride on this tire. It is nice to be back on a true knobby tire. I was using the Scorpion Rally STR all winter, and every once in a while I'd hit dirt, and man, I can definitely tell a difference that this is going where I want it to go, and it holds its line, where the more road biased tire just has a tendency to kind of drift around. This is holding its line. It goes exactly where I want it to. A lot of confidence. I can switch ruts if it's a real rutted road. Feels fine. We'll see how long this lasts. I'll do a review on this tire after I've had it on for 4,000 or 5,000 miles and more different riding. It's going to take me a while before I start trusting this on curvy roads, canyon roads or things like that, especially on a knobby. I don't ride very hard through that stuff, so I'm going to be fairly conservative. As long as I can get from point A to point B and not feel like there's any concerns there, then it'll be fine. Now, I did do something just as a test. I was on some asphalt at about 40 miles per hour, and I did an emergency stop, front brake only, to see how well this was going to do. the ABS engaged. I could feel it pulsing in my fingers as it was rolling. It never fully locked up because I got the ABS on them on road, but it did engage when I went to an emergency stop on this tire. So something to think about. It's not going to prevent me from riding it, but it's, you know, I'm aware that my stopping distance is going to be longer on this tire than others. So just something to keep in mind. Anyway, I'm already, in the short amount of time I've ridden these tires, pleased with how they feel. So if you like a big chunky knobby tire, you want to protect your rims, get a little bit of height, I think it's worth trying. Now we'll see what it's like in about 4,000 or 5,000 miles. I almost forgot to mention, this is I think I've mentioned before that this is the Dakar carcass, which is incredibly stiff and hard, and I think it's thicker than the standard carcass. So I currently am running 28 PSI in this tire. I run a higher PSI on dirt tires just because I want to preserve my wheels. I'll give up a little bit of traction to make sure I don't damage a wheel. Now I think even on this bike and being heavy, I could probably go down to 26 PSI pretty comfortably because of how stiff this carcass is. Now, for me, I'm going to leave it at 28. I'm probably going to run it that way the whole time. As it breaks in, the carcass will soften some. So a lower PSI to begin with will help the carcass break in a little, but I think I'm just going to leave it at 28. It's easy. I know where I want it every single time. I do make sure my tires are always aired to a proper pressure every time I go out. But once I figure out what pressure I want for each tire, I don't really mess with it. I just make sure it's set there. So I know that's going to be a question, is what PSI I'm running. 28 for a 450-pound bike with tubeless wheels. Anyway, if you are using this tire or have used this tire, let me know what your experience has been in the comments below. And that way I can kind of get an idea of what to expect over the duration of the tire in different conditions. I'm especially interested to know what this does on wet roads. I think that's probably the condition that is the most critical on any knobby tire in all of the conditions. Because I know off-road, it'll handle it. It's a deep tread, sand, gravel, really mud, as long as it clears out okay. I expect it'll handle it pretty well. So anyway, if you made it to the end, thanks. I really appreciate it. Remember, you can always make more money, but you cannot make more time. So get out and do that ride that you've been thinking about. Get out, do some riding, ride safe, and I will see you out there.